Hi, ladies and gentlemen. If you haven't seen this before, I'm making this is KL2PQ, and I'm a ham radio in exile. I really am in exile. I'm in Southeast Asia. I'm a farmer in Alaska, and I'm here. I just was making a video, and I had to cut it and go to part 2, so that's where we're on now. So to give you the gist of this again, if you've never seen his channel, I'm a rural Alaskan trying to protect the way of life. I've lost my farm. I'm getting it back by fighting my way through now. But anyway, rural Alaska and the last frontier is taking a beat because there's outside interests that are trying to just control and do everything because they actually hate. I'm talking about political hatred. If you're a trapper or you're a miner, you're a free person, the last frontier of America, they don't like you. They got to have a system control as part of Agenda 21 and this world globalist thing. Now, I explained this on the last video, so you might have to flash back there. But this video is tailored to on purpose. It's the middle of the night, and this is the second part. And this is tailored to the Tribal Council in Nenana, Alaska, and to the homesteaders in the area of where I'm at, and to, of course, my adversary. I want you to watch me close, my adversary, because I'm a strong believer, and I don't believe in violence, and I don't believe in power, money, or socialism. I don't want that. I'm a farmer, I work hard. I love to build radios, and I actually like to just mind my own business, and I want to go home. But anyway, so I'm going to go back to where I was previously in the other video right now. So maybe you might catch up to look that one. What I was talking about is when I ran for governor, there was a warrant for me, and I found out right at the end of the election, right when things are really hot and when they're really critical, and they are upset. They upped my court date that I had in court for my cause of my new country company that I built. They want me out of the state, and they are just bent to every way you can think of. And so anyway, so what I was saying in the last video was how I found out about the warrant was I was at Fort Wainwright, Alaska, and I have a lot of friends there. And the federal police, they wanted to talk to me, and they showed me it come up on their computer, and they were trying to help me. And so we found that the warrant was issued. I said this 5 minutes ago, but anyway, the warrant was out for me trespassing on Sled Road. Well, in North Pole, Alaska, there's a Sled Road, so we thought it must be there. We thought, maybe thought that the people that were fighting me in court lived there or something, and maybe they were, what they're doing, we don't know. So we looked, and I called the dispatcher, because I'm in the middle of a campaign, and I'm sweating, and it's going really bad. And then I'm arguing 3 hours. I called that dispatcher / the state troopers. Why in the world do you have a warrant for me? I said, I'm not a criminal. I'm running for governor, for crying out loud. And I would never, I don't do any, I don't break the law. I enforce the law. Anyway, so finally, I do get a state trooper, and he says, he said, Mr. Nimick, he says, everything we did is legal. You just need to get a lawyer. He said, because we didn't break the law, and that was the end of it. And now I'm really stressed out. And then they got me going in court the same time I should be in Anchorage campaigning. And they knew that they were trying to hit me at the right time, right when I was vulnerable. Anyway, so what happens is, I explained this in the last video, they busted my company, and the last time I went to court, I couldn't even go to the next court meeting because it was a $30,000 initial contract agreement. And it would have been, I tried to make a complete cash buyout of the whole contract so the other person couldn't possibly lose anything. And so the judge ruled in my favor, and that really upset them. So they bounced it to Superior Court, and then to another Superior Court. And in 5 minutes, I think I went from one judge to the next. Well, what happened is they broke the communication link with the lower judge. Now I'm looking at a court battle of $250,000 or more for a $30,000 issue, and I don't have the money because I just got enough money pulled together to buy out the contract initially. So I am just stuck, and it's the end of the election, and things are bad. and I am really walking on pins and needles. So a friend of mine is for a contractor, and I can't say the names or anything, but they got a hold of me and give me their car, and they said, you go around there and get your stuff and get in the airport and get out of here, you're in trouble again with them. And he says, you better get moving. I said, I don't think so. I don't think I'm in that kind of trouble. And he says, that's because you're looking from your side. And a friend of mine that was a transportation contractor, he gave me his car. And then I bootlegged back over here. And then I went back again after that, a year later. And then I went and got a hold of the state trooper. And I said, hey, I need to see why you had a probable cause to have a warrant for me, for crying out loud. And I did a lot of research, and I found a lot of crazy information before I went and talked to him, and I'll explain that in a minute. But anyway, he said, you have 1 minute, look at his watch, to get out of my office. And I thought, whoa. So then I left there and I went to the governor's office, because I'd already had 2 run-ins with Alaska Attorney General. I've been in his office in a campaign already. Now I'll tell you, back up a minute and tell you something else you don't see. I'm on a conflict of interest list. This is an illegal list. Now, please listen to this really carefully. This is crazy and this is real, but you're not going to find any proof of it unless you get somebody that's going to sacrifice your career. But the attorneys cannot handle you if you're in a conflict with the state the right way. They won't take your case. And it's called the conflict of interest list, and the list is out there, but nobody's going to officially declare it. So I went to the Attorney General and I showed it, and I said, hey, I got to have a lawyer. And I did get a lawyer to help me a little bit, but I got him from the VFW. And this guy took a big chance. In the end of this time, when this lawyer, when I went to this case getting too hot, finally I had to discharge him because he would be committing suicide with his whole job, his career. Anyway, but the VFW did help me get this one attorney, and we had him for a while. And then, and I can't say his name, of course. You probably can look it up in the record. But the thing of it is these guys don't play around. Now, earlier in another part of the hearings, I had a judge and 2 other attorneys volunteering and helping me, which you're not going to get their name. This conflict of interest is real. And they weaponized the government and attacked my farm and my family and me, and I lost my family. And then the thing of it is that they weaponized the government to the point where they're so dirty they can't get away from it. They blackmailed me to sign a release on my farm. I'm going to tell you how they did that. I'm on this conflict of interest list. I've got one attorney that won't fully acknowledge that he's for me, except send me his bill. And I got another attorney that's working for the other side of the coin that calls me up and says, listen, you're going to sign a release on your farm because you can't get any defense, and we're just going to take you to court and I'm going to take all your money. He said, so you either sign a release on your farm or I'm going to have your money and going to have your farm anyway. Well, I'm mad, so I wrote a letter to both attorneys and duplicated them. The one supposedly working for me that was really working for the state. And I says, you 2 guys, duplicated letter, I says, you are officers of the court. You can see that my rights by the state of Alaska is getting violated, and you're forcing me to sign a release or you're going to take everything anyway, and that's blackmail. And I said, you are officers of the court. You have to uphold the standards of the United States Constitution and the rule of law. And I said, you're not doing it. And I'm letting you both go. Well, I can't fire the other one, of course, but anyway, so that was the end of me working with attorneys at that time. And then, but this conflict of interest is real, this list, and it got to be terrible. Look at, I've been fighting an intricate war, but look at, I am a simple farmer. My biggest thing is I farm with I had an 80, they took it, but I have an 820 John Deere, and I have a old combine, and old equipment that's all rebuilt by me. I had a little machine shop. My stuff was immaculate, good paint, beautiful. My machinery was updated. I had a good, efficient farm with absolutely no debt. And I was expanding. At the time they attacked me with all this stuff, I was expanding another 300 acres, and they took it all. And I went through hell with it, and my family decided that they would take a bribe, and it got really, really bad, and I got really hurt. But I can't blame anybody. Life can get hard. And so anyway, what I'm doing today is on the Southeast Asia, and this is appealing to the Tribal Council in Indiana, explaining what happened in George Hall at the last public meeting we had. And I'm going back to that now to try to explain that. So at the last public meeting in George Hall, to keep the borough out of Indiana, but they tried to put the borough in now, I told you earlier about having the first petition that was stolen by the state. Now this is years later. We got back, and I held classes from airport hangars to people's houses. I taught how to make the Constitution work against the politicians and make it work. And so we made a petition again, and we got it in, and we got it certified by registering a petition with records that made it legal. And they never seen this happen before, so the state was really beat up over this one. That was the first time I got hurt. But anyway, so I got the petition in, and what happened in George Hall to get this petition going, I got to explain. We filed a petition in the recorder's office, and then this happened. Then we got all the signatures from all the people, and we got it done. And we had to pay money, so much dollar for each signature. And we got all the signatures recorded in the recorder's office, and they thought they had it won. So they had a big meeting in George Hall, and the TV cameras came, and the media, and they're gonna force Nenana, Alaska into a borough. And all of these left-wing Utah politicians, globalist politicians, are on the front row in the building. And they're all there, and they're thinking we're crushed. Well, what happened was, when the meeting got fired up, and we proved that we have control, and they can't force it in there. The rule of law is a petition that's recorded is the law. They couldn't do it. They were overrun. But the native people, especially one group from another area, showed up. And they explained about how the laws work and how to trust people and not trust people, and we got their endorsement. And I learned something quite huge in that meeting that I couldn't believe it. One of the gentlemen stood up, and he pointed at his grandfather. It was on the sign, and he said, "That's my grandfather." In 1917, they signed an agreement with the United States. It was a treaty. And then when he spoke about it, because I studied history a lot, I didn't know about it, and he says, "Listen to Mr. Nimick." He says, "You can't trust these people." Now, the first row of these people are mostly these Utah politicians. But when the meeting went the other way, people are angry. The TV cameras and the press crew, they shut everything down. They ran outside, got in their truck and their van, and they left. We didn't even get in the media then because they were defeated. This is how much control they have in Alaska. When the Democratic action happened, the Republican Democratic machine is working right. Even in the First Amendment was all we had in this meeting. They couldn't take the heat, and they didn't put anything down, and they didn't write it up, and they didn't put it in the paper. And it's just like they attacked the first two parties in Alaska. First, the Libertarian Party was dominant in the 70s. Then the AIP party would put the governor in under the AIP party, and almost another governor under the AIP ticket. And then, but the other governor, he was coerced to back off at the last minute. He had to. And I won't get into that, but they would have hurt him. But anyway, so this is the thing. The world is real, and there's conspiracy theories and all that stuff. Understand this. I am a simple rural Alaskan who wants to farm and be left alone. I love America and I love freedom. I'm a veteran and I am in condition broken arrow right now like you wouldn't believe. And when I was in service, I was 11 Bravo, and then I was going to stay in. And I'm asking for help. I'm in Southeast Asia going back, but I'm not the kind of person that beg for help. I went back 3 times now. And but if I don't do something, my neighbors in a rural Alaskan way is going to be destroyed. They're going to force us into this socialistic controlling machine of government that is not a republic. And it's not the right way. Now, when systems of government work, I'm going to tell you something that I learned a lot living in the bush all my life. The tribal governments are really efficient democratic republics. What happens is when they have a problem, they have another election right away. They fix it right away. They're family oriented. And I'm going to tell you, you learn a lot by people around you. I got to tell you, if you go in front of a tribal council and you have a problem, they don't care where your background is or who you are. They say, what's the desire of your heart? Can you show us what you're really doing? And it's not a lawyer, it's not a thing, it's like and when they built the country. It's like when they built the country in the Continental Congress. These guys are go-getters. And the native elders, a smart man, most of them. I mean, they didn't get there to be an elder by not being smart. And so the thing of it is when you live in Alaska in the bush a long time, you learn to change. You learn to adapt to everything and learn to think a different way. And I love Alaska and I love my friends, and they're under fire. And I'm here in this another country, and I'm pushed back to nothing. My farm title is in Colorado. Now, the only reason I could trace that down was that I hired a private investigating company that had to break into a record system because it was kept confidential. Nobody could find out who it was. Now, the lady that has my farm lives in Fort Carson, Colorado. And I went down there and I worked with my bank and I was working with this other new company I was building, and I was going to get a proposal to try to purchase back my farm somehow, or do something without a peaceful means where I wasn't politically aggravated and I wasn't getting violent. I'm a Mennonite background. I don't represent any church. But I believe in being loving and peaceful and nonviolence. And so I was trying to find another way to do it. So I go all the way down there to the lower 48, and I find the town, and I find her. So I found a really nice restaurant, and I'm dressed up pretty good, and I said, ma'am, my name is William Nimmy. You have the title to my farm, and I'd like to have a meeting with you and see how much money you had to pay for it, and I want to go home. I says, the things that's happened to me for you to acquire my farm are bad. And I says, I want my land back, that's my home. I built with my hands in the bush. I went through 70 below winter. I fought bears, I fought no food. I fought all kinds of obstacles to get my land, to get my farm. Living in the bush is not easy. I built a farm from scratch, getting my machinery and clearing my land. And I said, all my life is there. And I said, right when I got ready to work full-time in my 60s, they take it all. And I said, I just need to buy it back. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this woman is answering the phone, and she says, my date of birth, what years I was in the military, what I did for my occupation over my life, what offices I had. I did 2 terms of public office. I was in 4 elections. She's read all this back to me, my whole life story. And then she started getting mean, and she took my sentences and my wording, and she tried to invert it and make it into anger. And she tried to make it look like that I was being mean to her and threatening to her. So I stopped her. And I said, look at lady, I'm a peaceful person, and I didn't come here to be violent or be mean or anything. I really wanted to work with Mount McKinley Bank in Fairbanks. and I wanted to make some kind of proposal so I can go home. I just want my farm back, and I lived there all my life, and I'm old. I said, this is my home. And I said, I wanted to work out something with you, and that's why I finally got down here. I said, I don't know anything about anything until what you told me just now. And she just went off on me terrible. And so I said, ma'am, I'm sorry, but I can't go any more with you trying to talk to you. And I says, I don't dislike you. And I said, I'm just going to have to quit and go back to Alaska. So then what happened was, nobody knows about me there. Well, I have a vehicle with Texas license plates. And nobody knows it because I was smart enough to go there with some kind of common sense. Anyway, so what happens is on my phone, when I get off, my phone gets pinged. Well, I know what that is. I mean, law enforcement pinged my phone. And so then I thought, well, wow, what kind of story they got there? I wish I would have had my recorder on. I could have recorded a conversation. But anyway, so I got out of there and got back here. But I want to tell you this. The taking of my farm was a massive amount of intelligence because I was a hard guy to defeat. And they spent a lot of money and they broke the law numerous times. But in Alaska Superior Court, they are, ladies and gentlemen, a law upon themselves. And they push people out of the state, and they hurt people. And my friend Joe Vogler, now I want to listen to this really careful. Joe Vogler was the head of the AIP party. He told me 3 days before he was murdered that they were going to kill him. He was the guy to help write the petition I was telling you about. He wasn't the last one alive, and Bobby Miller was still alive at that time. And I think Dr. Whitted might have already passed away, but Bobby Miller lived very old, and I was his friend. When he was an old man, I would buy him dinner once a month and come all the way to Fairbanks. I missed him. He was quite an old timer. He was tougher than nails, and he loved Alaska, and he was the guy that put the steel in the pipeline. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm not good at making movies. I'm not good at editing. I'm not good at being an actor. I build radios. I love John Deere tractors. I modify them and upgrade them. I have an 820 John Deere that has modern 3-point hitch and hydraulics. I mean, I build it all. And I had another tractor they took, other equipment they took, but when I got back to Alaska this last time, friends of mine got a hold of my truck. Now, one of my trucks was a 1967 International, all gone through. Beautiful truck. And it had a lift gate on the back, and they found it in Anchorage. I went down to Anchorage and I got it. I brought it back up to close to where I used to live. I got my hay bine back. I got my 820 John Deere back. The court gave me back my John Deere tractor, my 1939 D7 cat dozer, and they gave me back my combine. My combine had many hundreds of hours in rebuilding and modifying it. It's an amazing machine. I took all the shafts out, and I rebuilt everything, and I converted all the shafts and drives in it to generic modern parts, so I can fix it easy. I don't need a dealer. I don't need anything, and I build my parts. On my farm, I had a machine shop, a small mill, and it had like 3 welders, and I had a milling machine and a lathe, and I love to build equipment. I love to build radios. I'm a self-made man, and they hate that. And I pushed the government out of the way. When I was in public office, I caught them in all kinds of things you would not possibly believe, and I cleaned them up all the time. And then when I would read an ordinance, I would say, we have to learn something here when we took our oath. We have to segregate and label all the issues, and how did they really affect by the rule of law, and how did they affect people's rights? And they just went crazy at me. They tried to pull me off, and they had a special meeting where they pressed charges against me trying to remove. Well, I faced it and I won, because I am not going to break the rule of law. So then when the state trooper had put out a warrant for my arrest, see, this really hurts me because I got best friends in the world that are retired troopers. I worked in law enforcement at the end of the pipeline a little bit myself. And these are domestic people, tremendous good people that are law enforcement, some of them. And U.S. Marshal was terrific, and the U.S. Marshals today, by the way, all the trouble that I've had, it's gotten really bad with the state troopers and other things. The U.S. Marshals are professional. Even today, they treated me really well, and they believe in the rule of law. I was impressed with them. And the federal police at Fort Wainwright also, I gotta tell you, to say you hate the government is a mistake, because there's fine people there. We got problems, so big ones. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason for this channel is to get my farm back, and basically to win a battle that we're having in rural Alaska to protect the last frontier, the last place in America where you're free people and you have a right of free choices, and to take care of yourself without some social interaction or some support. We don't need it, we don't want it, we don't have to have it. And we want to keep the way of life the same in the bush, and we also want the native way of life to stay the same. The biggest thing you can do is leave people alone. And so that's why I'm here in building radios, and I'm not a good auditor, so I'm going to jump back and change the subject a minute. And the last time I told you that this switch, I needed to get a double pole. This has got 7 poles, and this is for a set of different frequencies of radio I want to build with. Well, I got a double pole on order. I found one today. So now, when I build my coils, when we build our coils, antenna coils, we can have, we got to change 2 poles, 2 sides at a time for the RF. You know, again, RF is really touchy. And so we can do that now, and so that's on the way. And I hope to accomplish something. I always believed in the key to, and education is the key to freedom. That's why to me the Bible's important, and learning all you can is important. Being matriculated doesn't impress me very much, but learning does. And so when I went to college, I got to reflect back on something really quick. I went to Weber State College.